Hi students, in this video we're going to look at how we compare the measures of center and decide which value best summarizes a set of data. Alright, so after watching this video you should be able to understand the effect of outliers on the mean and median and also decide which measure of center best summarizes a set of data. Right, so the key thing is you'll have to recall the three measures of center and how to determine them. The mode, we won't get into that much, but it's still a good measure to know. The mean and the median. Right, now let's consider the following data set. I've just made it up and calculate the mean and the median. Right? So for this data, it's got a mean of 7 and a median of 6. They're pretty close together, which is a good thing, right? Our center of the data is pretty consistent. But let's say we consider a different set of data where that 11 changes to an enormous 130. And what sort of effect is that going to have on our data? Well, the mean goes from a paltry 7 up to 24. However, our median stays the same because the middle score here in between 6 and 6 stays the same. Right? Now, in this second set, which measure actually gives us a better picture, a better summary of where our data is at? Well, this 24, none of our scores are actually close to 24. They're all on the low end, like 9 or less, or on the really high end. None of them are actually close to 24 at all. In this situation, the median is a pretty good measure of where our data actually is, rather than the mean. Whereas in that first example, they were pretty close together. You could use either or to summarize the data. I'd probably pick the mean. Right, now it's important to note that the mean and median do tell us slightly different things. So the mean says if we even out all the scores, right, take the big scores and even them out with the low scores, what value would we get? Or think about it another way, if this event happens again, what value would we expect to see? So thinking about sport as another example, if it's the number of points a player's scoring in basketball, right, if he's averaging 35 points, then in his next game, we would expect to see him score maybe 35 points. Right? That's what the average means, the value we expect to see the next time this activity happens. Now the median says something different. Right? The median says that half the scores are below this value and half the scores are above. So in the situation we had on our first slide, when all the scores are evened out, this supermassive score has to get spread out with all the others, making the average rise. Whereas the median is still the middle. It's still the middle score. That back number could be anything from 10 to 25 to 2000. It's not going to affect this median because the median says that half the scores below are going to be below 6 and half the scores above will be above 6. So this median value is not affected by this super large number at the end, whereas the mean is. Alright, so to summarize that then, when a data set is roughly symmetrical, or if it doesn't really contain any clear outliers, the mean would be the best measure of center to summarize a data set. Right? If it's symmetrical, if there's no clear outliers, it should the mean should be pretty close, right, or approximately equal to our median. And if that's the case, if our mean and median are approximately equal, our data is probably symmetrical and it's worth using the mean in that case as to summarize the data. When the data is skewed, however, or if it contains outliers like we had in our example, then the mean and median will be very, very different. And if they are very, very different, the median is the best measure of center to use to summarize the data set. Alright, so after watching this video, students, you should be able to understand the effect of outliers on the mean and median. On mean, outliers make the mean rise. For median, outliers don't really have any effect on the median. Then, knowing that, decide which measure of center best summarizes the data based on whether there are outliers or not.